Hey, what's good people, I'm Sam Cliff and welcome back to No Agony channel. In today's video we're going to be breaking down how to make pain loops like LIL DURK and rodwave, etc. So before we get into the video, I'm just going to play the loop and then we're going to get straight into it and break it down. So this is what the loop sounds like. Okay, so the first thing I started with was a piano from the Grandeur, I think. There you go, there you can see. I turned up the hardness, decreased the dynamic range and the resonances a little bit. Amount, I turned that down a little bit, but apart from that, it's stuck. So this is how the piano sounds. So when I start off with the piano, I try and make piano chords, and what I've been doing recently is keeping the top line to a completely separate one because it just gets so messy. So I'd suggest you do the same thing. Now, when it comes to piano chords, I hate hearing the same basic pain chord. It's horrible. Need something new. So even though these chords aren't brand new, they're not something you would hear every day in pain, I don't think. Another thing I would do is a little bit of variation, tiny bit. As you can see here in the first 4 bars, I've got this. And in the second 4-bar phrase, we've got this. It's just variation. The tiniest thing, the tiniest bit of variation makes the biggest difference. So if we go to the effects, basically just added reverb. I always cut the lows because it just gets messy. You want to go around 80 to 100. Yeah, relatively small mix. Pre-delay, I turned it down a bit and the delay's on 2.37 seconds. So I just cut around 88 hertz. Again, you can cut around 80 to 100 hertz. I wouldn't cut anywhere below that because it's just going to get mushy and it's going to interfere with the bass when we add the bass later. After I've done that, I moved on to the top line. I had the chords playing at the same time, but I'm just going to play the top line so you can listen to just the top line and see what I've done. In some cases you can see I've harmonized notes, especially at the end of every 4-bar phrase. I think I mentioned in my drill tutorial that every 4 bars or 8 bars you want to switch or have something that gives it more tension, and it's the same in pain. So every 4 bars I've just got a bunch of harmonizing notes that lead up. So I'll just play the top line here. Right, so you can hear the harmonizing notes at the end of every 4-bar phrase, but you can also hear the velocities are different. So I don't know how you call it, like sweeping velocities basically. It's just sweeping upwards, and it's nice because when instead of start with a 4-bar phrase, it's not like straight boom. It's not like straight boom really loud, you know what I mean? It like comes in gradually. So definitely play around with velocities because it just gives it more character as well, makes it feel more realistic. I'll play you with the chords now. Now you might think that's a bit boring and plain, but I've deliberately left loads of space in the middle of each 4-bar phrase because that's where we're going to be putting the vocals and the bass guitar, and we're going to add an electric guitar for a second part of the loop. So I want to have space in, otherwise it's going to be too crowded. So yeah, that's basically it. It's literally so simple. I mean, it did take me a while to get this down, but once you have this down, everything else in the loop comes so much easier because this is like the main component of the loop. Alright, so next, I didn't really have an organ, so I had to make one myself, sort of. This one's in Purity. I mean, it already is an organ. I'll play it you dry so you can just hear what it sounds like. So I was just copying the chords from the piano. I mainly used the RC20 for the wobble, so it sounded like an organ because it sounded really bad, I can't lie. This preset's not the best, but I don't have any good organs. Then I used an EQ, cut around 151 hertz and 3002 hertz. I don't know why that random, but it sounded good, so I did it. Next, I added reverb. Again, it's pretty small reverb, just like the piano, and stereoizer when this loads. And another EQ, again, just mainly cutting the same frequencies as the first EQ, but just a bit tighter. So this is what the organ sounds like with effects. Now the reason why I added this is because when you're doing pain melodies, you either want to add a pad or like an organ or something in the background, because otherwise the piano is just going to be so plain and boring. It adds so much more texture. So let me play it you with and without the organ. And now with the organ. Now depending on what speakers you're playing this on, you might not hear the organ, but it's not meant to be an instrument that's really in your face. It's meant to be sort of ear candy, like in the background, just filling out like a pad. Now the next thing I added was vocals. I either get vocals from Splice or some kind of phrase, or I go to Arcade. This bank is the Tell Me You Miss Me bank. Basic vocals here. Alright, so now you've heard the vocals, I'll show you the effects I put on it. Baby Come Back, so it's a delay. Put a second, I think. 28% wet, so it's not very prominent. But we don't really need it to be in the foreground, so it's like a background thing again. Relatively small reverb again. Notice that we're not flooding these loops with reverb. Like, I hear so many pain loops where people use so much reverb and it ruins it, I swear. It's not good. So please, when you're using reverb, don't use a lot. Now, the next thing is Little Alter Boy. It's just adding another texture to it, basically. You're pitching it up by an octave and blending it in with the original vocals. So this is without, and this is with. If I turn this up, you can hear it's blending in the top vocal that's pitched up an octave with the normal vocal. And again, it just adds a tiny bit of texture. And a lot of engineers, when they're mixing vocals in certain tracks, especially in UK rap and German rap and stuff like that, I've been hearing they've been using this technique, and it's not new, it's been used for years. Alright, so this next EQ is literally just taking out harsh frequencies. Always do this with vocals, especially vocals from Arcade and Splice, because they're always got harsh frequencies in that people just can't be bothered to cut out, and it's not nice. And the next one is literally just filtering it, basically. It's just get rid of all the horrible lows and the highs that you just don't need in this loop. Okay, and the next element of this loop is the bass. So we used a bass from Contact, the Scarby amped heavy bass. That's a long name for bass, but okay. I don't know if a lot of people use it. I really don't know. I just saw it in one tutorial and I thought it sounded really nice, because everyone seems to be using this one bass from Contact, and again, using the same sounds everyone is using makes your loops sound the exact same, and it's all about uniqueness in pain. So this is the pattern I came up with the bass. Super simple. I'll play it to you now. So again, it's literally following the root notes of the chord progression, and here you can see it's literally following the break in the piano where it's gone. It's like it's following the same pattern, which makes it consistent. It makes it flow with the whole loop. You know, if the bass guitar doesn't complement the piano, the loop sounds a bit weird. So I'll play with the piano so you can see that it really like fits with the piano. When you're making the bass, you want to be playing it with the piano so it fits. Right, so now everything is done. I went to the effects. I didn't actually do the guitar until right at the end, so we're gonna do it in the order that I made it. So basically, simple effects. I got this overused effect, sounds like this, and I just reversed it. I do this in a lot of my loops. And the effects I put on this were, again, delay, a faster delay this time. Also, I love analog mode, it's the best mode, and ping pong, which means stereo, it pings from left to right. A lot of reverb, although the decay is quite short. Cut the lows with the EQ. And then with the ambient, I literally added reverb and cut the lows and highs. Super simple. Again, these little effects add like some texture to the loop. It doesn't make it as boring as it was, and it sort of leads into the next phrase, the next 4 or 8 bars that you're gonna play. So I'll show you what I mean now. So come to the end of this 8-bar phrase. You can barely hear it, but that's how it should be. It shouldn't be like really in your face. Now the last element of this loop is the guitar, and there's an easy way to play the guitar in Contact that makes it sound super realistic, but you need a MIDI keyboard, and I don't have one with me right now. So for those of you who don't have a MIDI keyboard, I'm going to show you a trick that makes your guitar sound much more realistic. Now this is the guitar I used, the Evolution Infinity tap faster leads preset, and again, it's a super simple pattern that just follows the chords. Oh, that sounds alright, but it could sound better. So the way you can make it sound more realistic, automating the pitch. Now, you can do this super simply with the modulation wheel on your MIDI keyboard, but like I said, I don't have one. So, for those of you who don't have one, pull up a MIDI out. I'm going to do this fresh so you guys know what I'm doing. So you go to your Contact that you want to automate. I set the range to 2. You can set it to whatever you want, but personally 2 works for me. And then if you see the cogs up here, you click on them, and then you want to change the input port to 1 and output port to 1 if they're not already saying that. Now go back to your MIDI out. We're going to make a new new instance of this. You can call it whatever you want, I don't know, controller. And then what you want to do with a controller is you want to press 1. Now 1 means contact. You can automate anything in FL Studio, you just got to know the number, and you can find it somewhere in the plugin presets, I'm pretty sure. Just press accept and you'll be able to modulate using this. So we're going to record notes and automation, and then when you press play it'll count in, and what you have to do is like squiggle your mouse really quickly to simulate the wobble on a guitar, and that's what makes it sound really realistic. So I'll give you an example. It won't sound good because I can't remember what I did. This is just an example. And as you can see, it's just drawn in the MIDI for me now, and that is just automating the modulation. Now I'm going to get rid of that because I've already done it and show you what I've done using this knob. So this is what I got. So you can see that it says like 24 bars, so I just chose the last 4 bars, or the last 8 bars rather. And let me play it with the automation now so you can hear what it's doing. And without. Now it's obviously going to sound better if you're doing it on the mod wheel on the MIDI keyboard while playing it, but I don't have that luxury right now, so that's all I got. So yeah, that's basically how to make the loop. Now when you're structuring it, obviously you want to include the stems. I mean, if you don't include your stems, then I don't know what you're doing with your life, to be honest. Just make sure you have little breaks between each stem, like 2 bars, to make sure that if you've got any reverb, it's going to fade out before the next one's going to start. Now the last thing is obviously mixing and mastering. Mixing, I can't really help you guys, you got to do it by ear. You got a gain stage, and once you've got that down, the mastering process is super simple. It's probably not the best way to do it, but the way I do it is a tiny little bit of stereoizer compression right here. So 3 to 0 to 1 ratio, fast attack, fast release RMF, and the threshold completely depends on each loop. And after that, soft clipper, fruity limiter, and that's what's going to master your loop, and it's what's going to make it louder. I'll play it with and without the mastering chain. So this is without. So it's a little bit louder. I just make sure my loops don't go above -6 dB, because that's when they start sounding crushed, unless you are going to turn this down to -3, which just makes it even quieter. So I just keep it around -6. My loops are loud enough. I check it on my phone to see whether it's loud enough. And yeah guys, that's basically how you make a pain loop. It's super simple. It just takes a little bit of practice and time. Now if you guys enjoy this video, be sure to smash the like, subscribe to the No Agony channel. There's free loops uploaded every single Sunday, so if you guys want any kind of loops, go to the No Agony loops channel. Every Sunday there'll be a new pack, and yeah, that's basically it. Peace out.